Hi everybody, I'm about to put together this video and I'm about to share this video with you, which is all about my favourite pencils. And I just want to put a little caveat at the beginning of this video because I've been thinking of it since I filmed it, that there is no right or wrong way of having a favourite pencil. Any of these favourite videos, these are just my personal favourites, but the favourites to you might be completely different to that, and that's okay. And also that the paper you're using in the sketchbook you've chosen will affect the materials you put on that paper. So every paper will change the materials you're using. I like a smooth, soft, off-white paper, which is the Royal Towns art creation paper, and that's in my favourite sketchbook video. But for you, you might like a different coloured paper or a different textured paper, and that will affect how the materials will work on that paper. I also want to just say that my favourite pencils and my favourite stuff is changing constantly, and sometimes I'll pick something up or grab something without even realising that actually, oh, I really love that, or discovering something new all the time. So although I might have filmed this in July 2023, by like August, the end of August 2023, that might have developed and changed, and that is okay as well. And whatever you decide is your favourite now might be different in 6 months' time, so just be open-minded. The reason why I came on and filmed this is last night I was doing a life drawing class with Draw Brighton, and I grabbed this Avec Dura Faber-Castell green gold pencil, and I've not used one of these Avec Dura. I think it's a water-soluble one. I've not used one of these pencils in a really long time, and I forgot how great they are, and I loved this colour and I loved drawing with it, and I thought, oh wow, I'm going to move this into my more used pencil case or more used selection of pencils. And before, I hadn't even thought about this pencil or this brand of pencil for a really long time. So it's just a little caveat at the beginning of this video, and probably I should put it at the beginning of all my favourite videos, but pencils are so personal to us. So if I haven't mentioned a pencil you love, there is no need to rush out and buy the pencils that are in this video, but I'm just letting you know which ones I really like. And yeah, I do actually really like this green gold Avec Dura Faber-Castell pencil. Really nice. But I hope you enjoy it. Let me know underneath all your favourite all your favourite pencils, and yeah, I will carry on now and you can watch the rest of the video. Hi everyone, I'm going to make a video today, part of the My Favourite series that we started recently. We've done My Favourite Pencil Sharpener, which is already up on Patreon, and I did My Favourite Sketchbooks last month. This month I'm going to do My Favourite Pencils, and it kind of feels a bit, I feel like this would be really good to film now and then maybe really good to film again in a year, because I'd be really interested to see if this changes. Long-time patrons will know that this patron is affectionately named after my favourite pencil, which a few years ago was the Payne's Grey Luminance pencil. This is actually a Payne's Grey 60%, but Payne's Grey pencil was my favourite pencil for years and years and years, and I've got loads of them that look like this. There we go, that's a Payne's Grey one. And then last year, when I did like my favourite colours of 2022, Payne's Grey didn't even actually make it onto that list, and my favourite pencil was overtaken by the dark indigo Luminance pencil. I think what would be interesting today, and what I've kind of thought about today, is talk about like brands of pencil rather than colours. I've kind of picked some of my favourite colours, but I think that will change over the year, and probably at the end of the year when I do a wrap up of my favourite materials from the year, I think that this will have changed. So although I'm going to be talking about pencils today, I think less about the colour and maybe more about the brand of pencil. A few years ago, I almost exclusively used Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils. That's the only pencil I would buy, and they are not a cheap pencil, but I think the pigment, the colour, the texture, they're an all-round a really good pencil, which I love. But I think pencils are really personal, because I know other people whose favourite pencils are like a Polychromos pencil, and you might be able to spot there are a couple of Polychromos pencils in this selection that I've got in front of me, but I own very few of them because for me they're not the right pencil for me. And it's only maybe in the last year and a half, 2 years, probably since meeting Frances Ives, that my pencil collection is kind of diversified a bit, and I'm not just exclusively using Luminance pencils, and I am using a few different brands of colouring pencil. If you have a favourite brand that I haven't mentioned today, I don't think that you'll need to rush out and buy more pencils which are different brands. I think it's finding that brand that works well for you, and then also thinking about what brand you can add to your collection which could give you that different texture or colour or effect. And I think if you've only got one type of pencil, it might be nice to kind of think about adding a few others in, but I would just say picking 1 or 2 colours. I don't think you need to buy like a whole set. And one of the things I've said right from the beginning of this Patreon is I very rarely advocate buying a whole set of pencils because they can be very expensive. Like if you wanted to buy a whole thing of Luminance pencils, I think it's like £300 plus, and you don't need them because there'll be colours in that set that you will just never use. Same with the Derwent pencils, Derwent drawing ones, which I'm going to show you in a minute. To begin with, I just bought my favourites, and then I think last year I realised that the middle size set of them actually has all my favourites in, and by doing that I then discovered some other colours which I wouldn't have bought as individual ones, and I've used them. And I did that with a big Neo colour set as well. So if you're just starting out, I don't recommend buying a big set of pencils. I recommend finding colours that you are naturally drawn to, whether it's colours in your home or that you wear that are in your wardrobe, or colours you see when you're out on location or on a daily walk or something. Find those colours you're naturally drawn to and buy those. And then as your collection grows, you might be able, you're just in a better position, I think, to say, okay, I am going to use all those colours, or there's only 1 or 2 in there that I'm not sure about but would be good to experiment with. And it's just a good way of keeping track on how much you're spending on art materials versus just buying like the full sets of everything and then feeling quite overwhelmed. I think that's a much better way of approaching buying coloured pencils. I'm going to show you, to begin with, a few Luminance pencils. Let's start there. I'm using this sketchbook, which is put in that, if you've watched my sketchbook, my favourite sketchbook, you'll have seen me make this little one, and I've hardly used it, so I thought it'd be really nice to kind of have a go with it today. Let's start with that Payne's Grey one, because these are some of my favourites. It's the Payne's Grey and the Dark Indigo, and you'll see that both of them are very dark tones. And I think what I really love about Luminance is if you really press hard with them, you can get a really nice flat matte colour from them. And that means if you're adding tone within your drawing, having something like this in your pencil case is just really useful. I also like that you can get a variety of marks from them, and again we spoke about this in the pencil sharpener video, I think, and also the mark making video from May. You can kind of get like really heavy marks from them, but also quite soft marks from them, and this is just from one pencil. But I also, as well as having like the very dark colours, I also like the bright colours and the light colours. So this is why I really love Luminance pencils, is that they have such a good range of colour. So their brights, when you really push down hard, are very bright. And their more muted colours are very muted. And you also can get like a variety of the same colour. So you can get Payne's Grey 60%, Payne's Grey 30%, Payne's Grey 10%. So you can get that. Like this is brown ochre 10%, but then you'd be able to buy brown ochre like 30%, brown ochre 60%, brown ochre. So you could buy that tonal variation of the same colour, which is brilliant if you are looking to explore tone, or if you're looking to explore just one colour within your work. It just gives you more options, I think. I started using Luminance pencils because I saw Marta Altes use them in her picture books when I was studying in Cambridge. And one of the other reasons I really liked using them and started using them almost exclusively was because I was doing a lot of screen printing around that time. So screen printing is where you do like layers of colour, let them dry, another layer of colour, and you're pulling the ink through a screen which has a design sort of burnt onto the screen, not burnt, but like exposed onto the screen. And then the ink can only go through a certain area that you've exposed. So what you end up getting with screen printing is this layering effect, because you're layering colours on top of each other. What I really liked about Luminance pencils is it kind of mimicked that effect almost of screen printing, because they do layer up really nicely together. These were my favourite pencils. You know what, they probably are still my favourite pencils. I still reach for Luminance probably, no, I wouldn't say like 100% of the time, but I reach for them more than I reach for other pencil crayons. They're the ones that I replace. They're the ones that take up most of this box. Like I have a box of all these like little stubby pencils, and most of them in here are Luminance pencils. And it's really, they are just, for me, they are a really high level of pencil. If you don't have any of these in your pencil collection, like I said at the beginning, they are quite expensive. They're around £3.50 each, which does mount up if all of a sudden you buy like 10 new colours. That's £35 on pencils. So I would recommend just buying yourself a couple in different like tonal range. So maybe something dark like a Payne's Grey or a dark indigo. Then maybe something like a mid-tone. So like this is brown ochre 50%. Maybe you'd want like a bright colour, so like this is cobalt green, or the ultramarine, also really lovely. You can see how much I've used that because it's tiny. I think it's time to reorder that one. And then some lighter colours. I think Luminance have a good selection of lighter colours, which are always really useful no matter what you're drawing. So whether you're doing life drawing or location drawing or still life, whatever you're using, these lighter colours are really useful. So for example, this is raw amber 10%. And this is French grey 10%. And you can slowly put yourself together a really lovely palette. So those are Luminance pencils. You'll hear me talk about them a lot. If you're brand new, yeah, they're probably mentioned in most videos. If you've been here a while, you'll already know my love for these pencils. I think they're brilliant. I think like for colour fast and for like depth of colour, I think they're really strong. But they are a more expensive pencil. The other pencils, which I think maybe like these three are kind of almost, maybe the next two are kind of on par, and Luminance is just slightly pipping them to the post. But the other ones I reach for quite a lot of the Derwent drawing pencils. I think these have been introduced to me by Francis, and again I just love the colours that they come in. I mainly love them for the more muted tones, so if I'm thinking about putting in like a background or something that's far away and I want to add depth in my work, I think these are really useful for having like, they're just very soft and subtle, and I think you can put down like bigger areas of colour with them quite almost easier. I think they're also brilliant, again, like I said about the Luminance ones, they're great for life drawing, and I really love the softer blues and greys that they also do. So those ones that I've just swatched there were the light sienna, the wheat, and double wheat. No wonder they look similar. And then these ones are the others that I reach for, which is the green shadow, pale cedar, and the Soloway blue. I think Soloway blue is probably one of my most used Derwent drawings. I just love it. I think it's like, it's the perfect sky blue for like a misty day, or like, but also for a summer's day as well. Green Shadow, I love. And then the Pale Cedar. They do layer like luminance, but it's a different kind of layering. Like the luminance almost give you like a very flat surface that then you can work over the top of. Whereas these, it's just a different kind. I can't quite describe it. It's sort of, there's a bit more resistance maybe to them, but that is quite nice. You can kind of see that colour coming through underneath. And perhaps I'm not giving a fair test really, because I'm putting pale colours over pale colours. But for example, if I put the wheat down and then this smoke blue, which is another favourite, it is quite nice to be able to see that colour and coming through underneath. And it's almost like creating a bit of a resist, only slightly. But that's interesting, because then if you wanted to do something where you wanted something in the background, maybe, yeah, if we had some trees. So you can see there it's created a bit of a resist. They're very subtle, but really lovely. There are some other colours in here that I've reached for quite a bit recently. The Mars Violet, I think Jason recommended that to me, but it's also a very Sarah Dyer colour. And then the deeper colours as well. It's a very, I think this is the set I bought, and they're very like autumnal-y colours in the UK. So the Sandarine, Olive Earth and Venetian Red, all also really nice. And I could imagine myself easily just reaching for these and not, you know, if I've got a life drawing that I'm doing online and I'm at my desk and I'm able to just reach for these colours without even really thinking about it, I think any of these would work well in a life drawing situation. But also, same for location drawing, but just depending on the season you're in. So I think the light colours come out with me all year round, but some of these more darker colours are a bit more muted, so they'd work better for like a autumnal scene. So we'll see how I get on with those later in the year. But I really rate the muted colours in the Derwent drawing. I think they're brilliant. The other ones that I reach for a lot actually, and this is Sarah Dyer's influence, are the Holbein artist coloured pencils. I think these actually do contain animal fat, I think. I don't think these are a vegan pencil, but I do really like the application of them. I like the way they layer, and I like, again, it's the colours for me. So I think when we're thinking about paint, we can mix any colour we want with paint. When we're thinking about coloured pencil, we almost need to buy the colours we need to get that colour. You can mix colours like we've started doing up here, where we're layering ones, and you do start to get an interesting texture built in with that, and you get to kind of make your own colours that way. But unless we're talking water-soluble pencil crayons, which I don't really have that many of, I think I put one up here that's a water-soluble one. Unless we're looking at water-soluble crayons, we can't mix these the same way that we can hack pens like Montana markers, or mix colours like we could do gouache or acrylic. But I think what we can do with these is be very specific about the colours we want to buy, and I think the Holbein ones just give a different variety of colour, which possibly you can't get in the Luminance or the Derwent drawing. What I also really like is how similar some of the colours are. So they're so close, but they're just that slightly off tone. So for example, the smoke blue is so similar to the the Soloway blue in the Derwent drawing, but if we put the two next to each other, we can see the colour difference. So if we're looking for like very slight variation in colour in our drawings, having like this range of colours is brilliant. So I really love the smoke blue. I've also, the other ones I love are the olive yellow. Ooh. And the ash rose. Like this. I also love Sea Fog. I actually couldn't find one on my desk, which means it's probably time to reorder one, but I really love the Ash Rose, the Smoke Blue and the Olive Yellow. And then recently, whilst I've been working, because I've been doing a lot of garden drawing, so if you've watched my process and development video from last month, you'll have seen me sort of briefly show this drawing, which I've just finished over the weekend, and I found myself reaching for these over and over again, and I think that's a brilliant sign. Like, that's such a good sign that they are the right colours for you and the right pencils for you right now. And I think what I really loved is that you get the olive yellow, but then you get this one, which is olive drab, and then you get this one, which is olive brown. And the same way that the Luminance pencils have that percentage, so you can get like Payne's Grey 10%, Payne's Grey 30%, Payne's Grey 60%, Payne's Grey. To have these olive colours in these different tones, I think has been really, I've reached for these more probably than any other pencils over the last couple of days. I also like how they layer, so they feel a bit more waxy, not in a bad way. Like, I think sometimes that can be conceived as a bad thing, but I do like the way you can really push down and layer them up. And I suppose you do get that blending, which I just said you don't get as much in coloured pencil, and I think there's less control over it, I suppose. But I do really like the Holbein pencils. The other ones I've been reaching for a lot is the Drawn Brilliant. But if you have some of these are very similar to the Luminance pencil. So unless you're really looking for that, unless you're doing a lot of drawing in coloured pencil, which I am at the moment, I don't think you necessarily need to go out and buy, like, don't buy the Drawn Brilliant if you've already got the Brown Ochre 10%, because if you put them next to each other, they are almost identical. But if I'm working on something, like say I'm doing like a cat, to then have that slight variation in colour here, and then perhaps we could use the Smoke Blue, and then for me, it's just become part of my practice to be able to combine those colours, which are so similar, and put them next to each other just to show the difference. It's something that I will talk more about probably when we do a tone video, but for me, it's just been very useful in my own practice. What other? Oh, these ones. Okay, so these are the other ones I've been going for. So the Willow Green and the new picture book I am about to start doing the artwork for. I feel like I need to maybe stock buy some Willow Greens because I think I'll use that one a lot. Then these two feel a bit like wild cards. They're not ones that I would necessarily be like, I wouldn't look at these. If I was in an art shop, I wouldn't look at them and say, those colours are perfect for you. Like if I was just seeing the ends of them, I'm much more likely to reach for something like this instead of this. But these have, again, I've reached for them quite a bit over the weekend whilst I've been drawing. So this is Celadon in the Holbein. And then this is Cobalt Green in the Holbein. And I love that pop of colour you can get. And again, if you've got the Cobalt Green in the Luminance, you might not need the other one, but again, I like the tonal difference between the two. You can, of course, combine all these. So like putting down a Holbein, you can start playing like, okay, well, how does a Luminance sit over the top of that? And how does a Derwent Drawing sit over the top of that? And they will all layer very differently. So it's worth doing that if you are getting some more pencil crayons into your collection. If you're watching this and thinking, oh, I'd like to try that, I'd like to try this, I'd like to try that. It's worth going back and doing May's play video, which we do each year for my birthday celebration, because then you can start experimenting and seeing how different colours can layer up together, and how different materials layer up together. So, for example, I did this the other day. Here we go. So you can start playing then, even if you're just using coloured pencil, it's still a brilliant exercise to do, so I'd really recommend that. There are a few other pencils in front of me, so let's just go through those really quickly. The Bark Derwent Inktense, I didn't have one of these until Rowena and someone else, I can't remember, in a live call, it was one of our drawing date calls, recommended this, and I now look for it when it's on my desk. I'm like, where's the bark? Because it's like a very dark brown, and I think someone actually was asking for like a very dark brown pencil. I think it was for tree drawings possibly, and this is what came out as everyone's favorite very dark brown pencil, and it's such a good one to have, especially if you're doing something and you've drawn, like if you've used a lot of dark colors like this, like say you were putting together a scene and you realize actually all the colours I've used here are very dark. If you want to then add an even darker tone to lighter some of those colours, this Bark one is brilliant, and it also sits quite nicely over the top of other pencils, not the Derwent drawings, but you can kind of get a more muted tone from it by layering it with others. I really like it over the Luminance pencils, and it's water soluble. So I said there's quite a few here that aren't water soluble, but the Inktense are. And I think you just get a whole other texture again from that. So again, it's just worth playing. Play, play, play. So yeah, thank you to Rowena and the others who recommended that in one of our live calls. And then let's end on these. So I only own a handful of Polychromos pencils, and I think in January I was talking about pencils and I called them Holbein pencils, and I think Emily Mackenzie said she was like shouting at the screen being like, they're Polychromos, they're not Holbein. And it's because I think they look so, I mean, they look very similar. Like if you had them the other way up, in my defense, they look very similar pencil. The price difference on them though is significant. So Polychromos, I think, are the most affordable pencils I have in front of me, but I only use a very small amount of them. So these two are the ones that I buy, and actually I hadn't realised how much I'd reached for this earth green yellowish one. I thought it was a Holbein. Like I put it in the Holbein pile, and it was only when I was sorting them out properly, I thought, oh, that looks a bit different, and I realised it's a Polychromos. So it's the earth green yellowish Faber-Castell Polychromos pencil. What I find with them is they just need a bit more pressure, like pushing down. But I do like these colours, so I also like the earth green. And I have a couple of these in my collection because I think it's a really nice, like, dusky light green, and I think earth green is a colour which I come back to again and again in my work. Faber-Castell used to do a brilliant earth green marker pen, which was the same brand as this one. Oh, there it is, I can see it. There we go. So they used to do this earth green. They still do this, but 3 years ago it was the perfect green pen, and then they changed the pigment inside. So I don't know why they do this, but the earth green Faber-Castell watercolour marker and the earth green Polychromos Faber-Castell pencil used to be a really lovely combo, but they have changed the makeup of this. This actually might be an older one. It's not bad, it's still not bad, but it's not got that, like, it's not got the same colour as this pencil has, which is why I buy these. I still buy these. So those are my two Polychromos pencils that I have in front of me. I don't think there's anything wrong with Polychromos pencils. Just for me personally, I prefer something that's got like a smoother finish, and I find these a little bit more scratchy. And also I feel like I really have to press down very hard to get the same depth of colour that I can actually get from a Luminance, just not pressing as hard. And I find, because of the amount I draw and the amount of depth I want in my colour, sometimes I find myself pressing down so hard. And if I do this for a really long period of time, like when I was finishing What Do You See When You Look at a Tree, I actually ended up getting, I would wake up in the middle of the night and my hand had cramped because I was holding that pencil down so hard. So if you're coming at drawing from, like, you're not doing it all day every day, I don't think there's anything wrong with Polychromos pencils. I think They are really affordable. They do have a nice colour range, but I think if you're coming from this way, you're drawing constantly all day, every day, like I was doing when I did What Do You See When You Look at a Tree, I think my hand would have even been more cramped if I'd purely used Polychromos pencils. Whereas I think I did get away slightly lighter by using the Luminance ones, but that was only because I did a very intensive amount of drawing over a very short period of time, like just over a month. So that's a very odd way to wrap up my pencil review, but those are some of my favourite pencil brands. If you want to see my favourite colours from 2022, I made that video at the end of last year. I'll be making another one at the end of this year. If there's any coloured pencils that you love, and what I love about doing these favourite videos is then seeing everyone's recommendations underneath, because I think it's so nice to, one, discover new materials we don't know, and two, just to be able to share that knowledge. Like, that is what this Patreon is absolutely brilliant for. You are all wonderful and such a great hive mind. So if you have any materials, pencil, crayons that you love, either it might be that you've got a different colour with some of these brands that you want to leave underneath, or you might just be like letting me know, like, oh yeah, I also love this one, I'd love to know. You might be like, I've got all those colours in Polychromos and I'm really enjoying them. Which again would be great to find out more about what you love and what coloured pencils are your favourite ones. If you've enjoyed this video and you would like more of these My Favourite videos, I mentioned at the beginning, but I've done my favourite sketchbooks and my favourite pencil sharpeners. Those are already up. This series will continue throughout the year. Probably do my favourite pens next, but I think that might be a little bit more tricky because I do love a marker pen. But if there's anything you want to see me talk about, again, please leave a comment underneath. I would love to know. If there's any videos that I've mentioned and I haven't linked underneath, please do check out the contents page or drop me a message. And yeah, I will see you all soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.